Hey guys, what's up? It's Chase from thetechunion.com and welcome to the next intermediate tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be looking at creating a simple explosion. This is kind of like one of the first explosions I learned how to make, and it's pretty cool, so let's check it out. Now, this isn't the only explosion I'll ever be teaching you guys how to do. It's just that this one's kind of the most basic that I'll be teaching, and the next time I do an explosion it'll be a little more advanced. But enough of that, let's go ahead and get started with this explosion. Alright, so we have all of our footage here. I have 3 clips from Action Essentials and 1 picture from Google Images. We're not going to worry about audio in this tutorial just because it's not really that important, and you really don't need instructions on finding your own good audio. So you can just go out and look for it on the internet. You can find some pretty good free audio out there. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to create a new composition. We're going to call this Simple Explosion Tutorial. Yeah. Okay. We're going to leave the size at 2, I think that's 2.7K, that's what I shot at. And then we'll leave everything like that. Alright, now let's go ahead and drag in our footage into our composition. Alright, here we go. Now this shot was actually meant to be something else, so I do walk, here let's set this to full. So I do walk in frame here, but so we're just gonna actually freeze frame this, so it's just one still image the whole time. Alright, and then I'm gonna go ahead and set it to half resolution just so that it's a little faster when we're working in it. Alright, so let's go ahead and grab our 3 explosion elements and bring them right in here. Oops. Alright, so here we have a few different explosions. We have this main explosion here. Then we have these 2 little kind of spark pieces that kind of fly off. Alright, so let's go ahead and get compositing. So nothing here is that difficult. All we have to do is really scale it how we want, rotate it, and that's really it. Place it down. So that looks like a nice big explosion. Maybe a little smaller. That's good. Alright, just like that. And now, to give this explosion a little more power, I'm going to cut the clip to right here, so that when it does come in, it comes in very strongly. Just like that. It's a very sudden explosion. Alright, so let's go ahead and add in this element. So, this one can fit in right about here. I want the sparks to be kind of flying up once the explosion is at its peak. So right there should be good. Let's go ahead and cut this to right here. Let's look. Okay, so we can see that's a little bit not great looking. I don't know how to say that. That looks a little bit better. Let's try that. Okay, I'm gonna make sure to cut it. We don't want the spark showing before our explosion. Okay, that's not bad. Let's go right there. Let's try that. I feel like the sparks are a little too delayed. Okay, that's good. We can also scale up our sparks a little bit. Just like that. So let's look at that. That looks better. Alright, perfect. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to our next element, and then after I get all these placed in, I'm going to go ahead and start kind of making the explosion look a little bit better. So let's look at this element. So this one, I want kind of flying out right about there. What is this? Go away. Virus software. Alright. let's check this out. Okay, yeah, that is you can kind of see how it looks wrong, and that's because this effect is meant to be used on a smaller scale. I can just tell by looking at it. So we're going to kind of throw it in on the side, and we're going to see how that looks. Okay. Not bad. Scale it over. Alright, that's good. This explosion doesn't need to be perfect because, you know, if you're just starting out with compositing stuff like explosions, they're not going to be perfect, so no big deal. So we're going to add a glow to the big explosion, alright? And we're going to use A and B colors. Color A, we're going to kind of give a lighter yellow color. Color B, we're going to kind of give this darker red color. Alright, not darker, it's actually pretty light. Alright. Let's go ahead and play with the settings here. Right. Alright, cool. That's not bad. So what I want to do is I want to, oops, not that. Okay, I want to duplicate this, and I want to call this layer lighting. Okay. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to get an ellipse tool and drag it out like this. Okay. And kind of rotate it to match along the ground. Squash it a little bit. Alright, there we go. And I'm going to set this to screen. Maybe add. Yeah, add looks a little bit better. So we're going to set it to add, and it's underneath all the explosions, and then what we're going to do is we're going to feather it a lot. Okay, and then we're going to tint it a little bit more kind of yellowish. So let's do this just like that. Maybe the blacks to a darker red. Alright, just like that, looks good. And now what we'll do is we'll animate it to kind of start at nothing. Okay. So nothing. Alright, this is kind of the peak. Just like that. Alright, let's see how that looks. Alright, not bad. Okay, I think it looks a little too... I don't think it's feathered enough. Yeah. Let's try that. That's a lot better. Alright, looking good. Now the only thing I see is that this color is actually going to look better when it's black. Yeah, I don't really want it too red. That looks good though. I think we're going to keep that. Alright, so our basic explosion is pretty much done. If you want to add a little more lighting, you can always drag another ellipse, kind of like this, around the whole thing, like that, and then increase feathering, and then give it kind of the same, oh, it's already the same opacity because it's all one layer. Okay. Alright. Just lower it a little bit. can do that. And that gives it a little more oomph. And I actually like that more. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so that's our lighting. Alright, let's move along. So, there's two more things we can add to this to make it look a little bit better. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is, it can be done different ways. It's a shockwave. I've learned kind of 3 different ways to do a shockwave. This is probably the most basic, and it probably looks not the worst, but it doesn't look the best. It still looks good, but I prefer the other 2 ways. But this is the way I'm going to show you because it still looks acceptable, and it's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and do it. Alright, so what we need for this is we need a new adjustment layer. Alright, and we're going to call this shockwave. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply a bulge effect to the adjustment layer, and we're going to center the bulge over our explosion, and let's go kind of back to the beginning. There we go. And you want to increase your bulge radius as far as you want it to reach, okay? As far as you want your shockwave to go. Right, so about that looks good for me. Alright, that's good. Now, what we need to do is we need to create a new solid. You want to make sure it's black, and you want to call this shockwave matte. Alright, and I have no idea why it's so big. That's kind of crazy, but I'm just going to bump it down to 5,000. In fact, I'm just going to make the comp size. Yeah, I don't know why it's like that. Okay, anyway. So, for the shockwave matte, what you want to do is you want to apply an iris wipe effect. Alright, you want to make the outer radius like that, and you want to get the maximum amount of iris points, so it's 32. And then increase your radius to about the size of your explosion, kind of like that. And then you want to increase the feathering to around 200, just like that. Alright, then what you want to do is you want to add a colorama effect. Alright, you want to set the input phase to alpha. You want to set the output cycle to ramp gray. And then what you want to do is you want to drag the arrow, not the black arrow, the white arrow, down to the bottom to make this white ring around. Alright, and then to get rid of the space in the middle, you want to go down to modify, and you want to check change empty pixel. Alright, and that'll get rid of the space in the middle. Now what we want to do is we want to animate our shockwave to kind of move with the explosion. So what we're going to do is we're going to lower the opacity of our shockwave matte just so we can see what's underneath. And we're going to edit or animate the outer radius of the iris wipe. That's what will make it bigger or smaller. And alright, so I'm going to have it start right about here. Okay, that looks good. Just like that. And then we're going to go a few frames, and we're going to make it big. Alright, there we go. And then what we want to do... Oh, I'm an idiot. Why do I always do that? You want to click your stopwatch first, of course. Alright. Because that's important when you're animating stuff. Alright. And then we're going to go a few frames and put it back out. Alright. So now what you want to do is you want to go to the beginning of your shockwave, and you want to animate the opacity so that it starts at 100 and fades out to 0. Okay? And then what you want to do is, since you want the bulge effect to show on the white ring, you want to change your track matte to Luma matte. And so you can now see the shockwave just like that. Now you want to make sure that this frame is okay. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the iris wipe and I'm going to decrease that. But the frame before that, you want to make sure that your opacity is at 0. So then it appears and goes out. Alright, so the shockwave is pretty much done, although there's one thing. You can see the shockwave kind of goes into the ground. You don't really want that, so you can apply a mask to your shockwave mat. You can use a rectangle, just like this. Right. Oops. Alright, I'm going to rotate this a little bit and drag it up like that. Then you want to set your mask to subtract. And if you want to, you can feather it like maybe 5 pixels. And there you go. So now if we play it back, you can see we have a really fast shockwave. Now it looks a little too fast, so what we can do is we can go into our shockwave mat, effects, iris wipe, kind of zoom in here, and we can increase, we can kind of pull this out so it'll go a little bit slower. Let's see how that looks. Oh, I missed it. I blinked. Alright, that's pretty good. We're going to increase that a little bit more, a little bit slower. Alright, that's good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to increase the outer radius even more so that our shockwave can travel a little bit further. Alright, that looks good. Alright, that's good. We'll leave it like that. You can always tweak it to how you want, make it perfect, but it looks pretty good like this. And you can see there's a little showing on the bottom here. I'm not quite sure what that is, but I think it might be fixed if we turn the feathering down to nothing. Okay, it's not quite fixed. So we can try turning the expansion up. No, it doesn't quite fix it either. I don't know what that is. It vanishes pretty quickly though, so I don't think we have to worry about it too much. So yeah, there's the shockwave. It's done. Now what we can do is we can add 2 more things. Now I have this picture of a missile here, and I got this so that I could crash this into the ground. Because why else would there be a random explosion? Alright. So let's mask this out. Now the shockwave method I told you, you can tell it kind of looks, it looks good, but you can see what I mean about wanting to use other methods. And the reason I didn't want to use another method in this video is because it would take longer, and I wanted to keep this video pretty short and simple. But for future explosions, I will most definitely be using the other methods because they're a little more realistic. They require just a touch more work. So the missile can be, pretty rough. Doesn't have to be perfect because it's going pretty quick. So all we have to do is rotate it down. Alright, scale it. Okay. There it is. Alright, so let's animate this from here. Boom. Nope, not like that. into the ground, and it's going to be behind everything like that. Let's see how that looks. We want to enable motion blur for it so that it looks realistic. Alright. Stop. Stop, stop, stop. Alright, let's look at this. Looks pretty good. Now, obviously, the shockwave is too fast. For me, it's too fast anyway. I'm not going to change it, but you can always change it just by moving that simple keyframe. I just want to try to get this tutorial done as quickly as possible so that you're not sitting here for too long. Alright, let's go ahead and finish up now. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click and we're going to pre-compose this, and we're going to call this final explosion. Alright, now what I want to do is I want to add some camera shake when this explosion hits. Now to do that, what we want to do is we want to add an expression. So if I go to the position, I want to animate the position to have this shake. So if I alt click on the stopwatch, it opens up expressions. So here you can type an expression. What they do is they're basically like little scripts that do kind of predefined animations without you having to animate it by hand. At least that's what the wiggle is. So that's what we're going to apply is a wiggle. So we're going to have it wiggle like this. Now there's two different numbers to a wiggle function or a wiggle expression. There's the first number, which explains, it shows how many times your clip is wiggling per second. I think that's what it is. And then the other number is how many pixels it can wiggle by. Or maybe the 3 is the variation of, different amounts of, but the max is 16. I don't really know how to explain it, but just know that 16 is the amount of pixels that it's shifting, and 3 is kind of like the intensity. So let's go ahead and look at this. So if we do that, we can see that our clip kind of shakes throughout the whole thing. Now, it's not really shaking fast enough for me, so I'm going to change this to 6. So let's zoom out here. Okay, let's look at this. Okay, so now it's shaking a little faster. But we don't want it to shake until our missile hits the ground. So since expressions like this apply to the whole composition, what you need to do to fix this is you want to add a slider control. So this is under expression controls. You can add a slider control. So we're going to add it here, and we're going to go into our expression, and we can highlight the 16, and basically we can drag this pick whip icon to our slider. And what this does is it basically says that the composition will wiggle 6 times a second, basically by the amount specified by the slider control. That's what it's saying. So now whatever value we set to the slider will be how much it shakes, and we can also animate that so we have a little more freedom. So nothing, nothing, and then here. Boom. I'm going to actually start it right here, and then we're going to have it at about 20. Raise it up, and then we're going to fade it down. To nothing. Alright, let's check that out. Alright, it looks pretty good. I just want to bring this out a little bit more. In fact, let's just delete that one. Alright, that's good. Now, for this, we're going to actually decrease this a little bit. Now, you see that we have black borders showing. Now, to fix that, what we can do is we can actually do a few different things. I think there are some effects that will repeat edges to kind of get rid of that. But I'm just going to do a quick fix, and I'm just going to make my composition a little bit bigger, like that. And that should get rid of the black borders. So now, if we preview this thing, you can see that we have our shake. Now, I want it to shake a little more violently, so I'm going to change this to 10. So let's try that. Okay, that's perfect. Alright, so that's basically all for this video. That's basically all that we're doing is that. I want to quickly animate, not animate, but make that missile disappear so it's not showing. Alright, and that is all. So basically what we did is we threw a few stock footage elements together, composited them, and then we created a shockwave, added some lighting, and then worked a little bit with expressions. So this kind of covered a lot of different things. So hopefully this helped if you're wanting to learn how to do an explosion. This is just the start though. They can get much more complicated, but I hope you guys enjoyed this simple explosion tutorial, and I will see you guys in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching.